Welcome to episode 13 of the CySA PrepCast. Today's episode marks the beginning of your final exam readiness review for two of the most mission-critical domains, incident response and management, and reporting and communication. These two domains together form a complete picture of how cybersecurity analysts react to real-world events and how they explain what happened to the people who need to know. Understanding the technical aspects is important, but the exam also expects you to demonstrate maturity in decision-making, accountability, and professional reporting practices. This episode will walk through a bulletproof checklist that ensures you're fully prepared to handle any questions from Domain 3. Let's begin with the foundational structure of Domain 3. You need to be absolutely fluent in the phases of incident response. These phases are preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. The exam will test your ability to apply each phase correctly and in order. Preparation involves all activities that take place before an incident happens. This includes developing an incident response plan, conducting tabletop exercises, assembling a response team, and ensuring all technical tools are properly deployed and monitored. The identification phase starts the moment a suspicious event is detected. Your job here is to determine whether that event constitutes a real security incident or if it is a false alarm. Once an incident is confirmed, containment is your next responsibility. Containment can be short-term or long-term. You must know how to segment affected systems from the rest of the network without causing business disruption. During containment, it is also your job to preserve forensic evidence without allowing further damage. Eradication comes next and involves removing all elements of the threat from affected systems. This includes deleting malware, disabling compromised accounts, and closing exposed ports or services. Recovery is about restoring services, verifying system integrity, and ensuring that normal operations can resume safely. Lastly, the lessons learned phase involves formal documentation, debriefing, and identifying long-term improvements to policies, tools, or training. Understanding preparation also includes knowledge of incident response policies and procedures. The exam may ask you to identify which tools or documents should be developed in advance. These include incident response playbooks, escalation matrices, stakeholder communication lists, and legal contact protocols. You may also need to describe how tabletop exercises are used to evaluate readiness. During the test, be ready to answer questions about gaps in preparation, including missing controls, poor documentation, or lack of staff training. Log and data analysis are essential. You should know how to interpret logs from firewalls, endpoint detection tools, authentication systems, and operating system events. Be ready to correlate multiple logs to identify lateral movement, unauthorized access, or privilege escalation. If you see multiple failed login attempts followed by success, followed by data access, you must recognize it as a likely compromise. If logs show a new scheduled task or unknown registry change, you should identify this as possible persistence. The exam will present you with scenarios involving unusual patterns, and you must be able to identify root causes quickly and accurately. Evidence collection and chain of custody are not theoretical concepts on this exam. They are practical skills that you are expected to apply correctly. Know how to acquire evidence from volatile memory, hard drives, and cloud storage while preserving its integrity. This means using hashing algorithms like SHA-256, maintaining logs of every handoff, and storing copies securely. If chain of custody is broken, the evidence may become inadmissible. The test may provide you with a scenario where evidence has been collected improperly, and you will need to identify the mistake and suggest the correction. Containment strategies must be well understood. In the exam, you will need to choose between options like network isolation, device quarantine, or account suspension. You must also know when and how to limit damage without interfering with critical services. In some cases, full disconnection may be appropriate. In other cases, enhanced monitoring may be a better approach. These are judgment calls, and the exam tests your ability to apply both technical and business logic to make them. During eradication, know which techniques to use to eliminate threats. This includes malware removal tools, system re-imaging, vulnerability patching, and credential resets. You must also verify that the root cause of the incident has been addressed. Simply removing the symptom is not enough. You must ensure the attacker's access path is closed. If a web server was compromised through an unpatched plugin, removing the malware is not sufficient. You must also patch or remove the plugin and verify logs for any other signs of compromise. Recovery is not just about restoring service, it is about restoring service safely. This includes restoring backups, verifying data integrity, checking configuration baselines, and running post-restoration scans. Be ready to answer questions on when it is safe to bring a system back online and how to monitor it afterward. You will also need to know what indicators signal that recovery has failed, such as recurring alerts or unexpected system behaviors. Recovery may also involve customer notification, compliance checks, or coordination with vendors. The lessons learned phase is not just about writing a report. It is about identifying improvements to prevent future incidents. You must know how to write a complete incident report that includes a timeline of events, impact analysis, root cause, and a remediation summary. The exam may provide a report to excerpt and ask what is missing or inaccurate. You must also understand how to organize a debrief meeting, who should attend, and what outcomes must be documented. In addition to the formal response phases, you need to recognize the types of incidents you may be dealing with. Know the signs of phishing, ransomware, data exfiltration, denial of service, insider threats, and account compromise. You should be able to identify these incidents based on indicators such as large data transfers, encrypted files, unusual login patterns, and user behavior anomalies. These details often appear in case study questions, and your ability to connect them to specific incident types will be tested directly. Also be familiar with frameworks like MITRE ATT&CK, the cyber kill chain, and the diamond model of intrusion analysis. You should know how to use these models to classify attacks, understand adversary behavior, and design detection strategies. For example, MITRE ATT&CK breaks down tactics like initial access, execution, persistence, and exfiltration. The exam may ask you to map actions from a log file to these phases. These frameworks also help guide containment and response decisions, so your familiarity with them can provide extra context for difficult questions. Now that we've thoroughly reviewed the key elements of Domain 3, it's time to turn our attention to Domain 4, reporting and communication. While this domain represents a smaller percentage of the overall CySA Plus exam, its importance cannot be overstated. It is the domain that transforms raw security data into understandable, actionable, and often legally significant information. Your ability to communicate clearly, especially with non-technical stakeholders, is critical not only for passing the exam, but for becoming an effective cybersecurity analyst. In this section, we'll cover reporting structures, audience-specific communication strategies, documentation types, compliance communication, and metrics that demonstrate the value and performance of your security operations. Start with the core purpose of Domain 4, translating technical security data into clear, timely, and relevant information for various audiences. These audiences can include executives, regulatory agencies, customers, internal IT teams, legal departments, or even the media in the case of a significant incident. You need to know what kind of information each group needs and how to structure your message accordingly. The CySA Plus exam may present scenarios where you are asked to choose the most appropriate communication format, identify missing report components, or recommend how to summarize technical events for non-technical stakeholders. Let's start with reporting for vulnerability management. You should understand how to compile and structure reports that include findings from vulnerability scans, highlight affected systems, and prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk. These reports must be readable and useful to different levels of the organization. For executives, the focus should be on risk exposure, potential business impact, and mitigation timelines. For technical staff, the report should include scan results, severity scores, system details, and recommended patching or configuration changes. The exam may ask which pieces of information are appropriate to include depending on the audience or goal of the report. Compliance reporting is another essential area. Many organizations must report their security posture and incident history to external auditors or regulatory bodies. You must understand how to produce documentation that aligns with standards such as HIPAA, PCI DSS, or GDPR. This includes providing evidence of control implementation, audit trails, and proof of adherence to incident response procedures. The exam may present a scenario in which a compliance officer requests specific information, and you will need to choose which documents to provide and in what format. Know the difference between various report types. An executive summary provides a high-level overview of an incident focusing on impact and business response. A technical report details specific vulnerabilities, exploits, logs, and system behaviors. A root cause analysis identifies the underlying failure that led to a breach, while a post-incident report documents the full timeline of events, actions taken, and lessons learned. Each report has a specific purpose, and you must know which one is appropriate for which audience. The exam may give you pieces of each and ask you to categorize them or identify what's missing. Metrics and key performance indicators are core parts of communication in this domain. You should understand the most commonly used cybersecurity metrics, including mean time to detect, mean time to respond, number of incidents resolved, and the volume of alerts generated. These metrics must be presented in a way that aligns with business goals. For example, showing that your team has reduced the average response time by 30% over the last quarter is more impactful than listing every alert handled. The exam may ask you to evaluate which metric best demonstrates program effectiveness or operational improvement. Incident response reporting is another core subdomain. After every significant incident, a formal report should be generated. This report must include a timeline of what happened, how the incident was detected, who was involved, what steps were taken, the impact, and the resolution. It should also identify the root cause, suggest improvements, and outline any required follow-up. Know how to organize this type of report and what details are essential. The exam might give you a sample report and ask you to identify whether the timeline is accurate, the response steps are appropriate, or if any key element is missing. Stakeholder communication is a recurring theme throughout Domain 4. You must know how to tailor your message based on the audience. Executives typically want summaries, clear impact statements, and risk-level language. They are not interested in log files or protocol analysis. Legal teams will want documented timelines, decisions made, and evidence handling procedures. Regulators will expect compliance language and formal reporting formats. Your ability to identify what each audience values and communicate accordingly will be tested, especially in questions that ask how to handle multi-stakeholder incident responses. Transparency and trust are vital when communicating with customers or the public. If a data breach has occurred, your communication must be timely, clear, and responsible. You should know how to structure a customer notification that explains what happened, what information may have been affected, what steps the company has taken to secure systems, and what the customer should do next. Avoiding blame, using plain language, and providing reassurance are key. The exam may ask you to choose the most appropriate tone, content, or timing for such messages. You should also be prepared to document and report on risk acceptance decisions. Sometimes an organization chooses not to remediate a vulnerability due to cost, operational constraints, or low risk. This decision must be formally documented, communicated to leadership, and reviewed periodically. You should know how to write a risk acceptance justification and who needs to approve it. The exam may test your knowledge of reporting obligations tied to deferred remediation or accepted risk. Lastly, Domain 4 emphasizes the importance of continuous communication. Cybersecurity professionals must regularly report to management, provide operational updates, and deliver metrics that track program performance. Understand how to develop recurring reporting schedules and dashboards that align with business cycles. These might include monthly vulnerability summaries, quarterly incident reports, or annual compliance assessments. Be ready to explain how these reports are used in strategic planning and budgeting. To summarize Episode 13, mastering the content of Domains 3 and 4 means you can both handle cybersecurity incidents effectively and explain them to anyone who needs to know. Incident response is about planning, reacting, and recovering with discipline and clarity. Reporting and communication are about structuring your knowledge so that others can understand, evaluate, and act on it. Together, these domains reflect the complete role of a modern cybersecurity analyst, someone who both defends systems and ensures that others understand what needs to be done. Continue reviewing your materials, practicing your scenarios, and testing yourself in real-world conditions to ensure you are fully prepared. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the PrepCast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.